All right. Age changes. Yeah. Age 97, proposed changes. We're back to Hex doing them. Hex, so surely these will be great. Basic mechanics, we're back to converts on trads for all races. This is a nice bonus to everyone. Basically, get yourself a good 3 to 5 free EPA at the start of the age. It also enables your elite defenses to hybrids a lot easier. Your fairies and your dark elves this age. And in general, it's just basically an age-long economic bonus, because you don't need to train quite as many elites. Carry wages from the wall removed, whatever. Daily activity bonus calculated from average income. I think that's mostly to just stop getting rioted the tick before the month, or sending dragons tick before the month. Fine, I guess. Overall, it shouldn't change that much. To be balanced. Minor change to protection and dragons. This is nice. See, I've been wondering about this for as long as I've been playing, but now you can see your gangbang on your own page. It's nice for estimating how much land you're going to lose in your next hit. Most people will realize how much gangbang protection they lose when they're hitting out good things. Most of those not very important. Getting those converts back is pretty big, though. Trading grounds make mercenaries cheaper. Now, nobody's really running more than 10 or 15 training grounds very often, and only a 20 to 30% decrease in cost isn't going to matter much. But suppose if you combine that with a warrior, you're going to have some ultra super cheap mercs. So, got that going for you. I've even played with the minus 75% bonuses before and never cared, so is what it is. Universities now affect books in all categories, not just one category, but the benefits cut in half. So I think this is mostly because the personalities are getting a book buff this age, like we've seen in age past. EMs are getting 25% more arc books, attackers 25% more military books. So it just sort of stops the like Steam having stacking book generate. And it'll slightly let you spread your categories around a bit, but you're probably going to focus on that one that's tied to your personality still. I'm not really a fan of that sort of aspect of universities. I think it'd be fine just having it only affect your scientist generation. But, oh well. Cunning's been split into thief and magic damage. And scaling's been reduced. I'm not sure if it's been split and each category is worse than the current category. If that's the case, that seems like an over nerf. If it's the other way around, where you can focus on one at a higher number now, that's interesting. That might be a little bit too strong in itself, also. So I'm not sure how that's going to be balanced. I don't think it should be split in two and nerfed overall. But I don't think either one should really be buffed. You can't just give some people 40% NS damage. It just gets a little bit silly. Same with magic damage. And then, yeah, each personality gets their one focus of books. Building gains increased for credits. That's weird to me, because that's going to put you at almost full gains, I feel, on trads in range. I don't know if that really need to be getting full. Seems like just a random sort of change. I'm not sure it's bad or good. I'm just not sure why it's there to begin with. Uh, Raising into war isn't anymore the easiest way to kill 1,000,000 troops. That's a good change. And war tiers have been bumped up. This is still too low by a lot. Everyone was getting to tier 5 this age already. This isn't nearly enough of a bonus with no other war tier or war score change. I'd like to see this probably at 250 for the top tier. Not a huge fan of the tier system either. Just a bit arbitrary, but is what it is. Mostly what happens is everyone's getting the same bonuses except for the one guy that explored without using any pool, right? So, oh well, big deal. Guy's asking me Genesis. There. And what do we got? Rituals. Now, ritual casts you need is tied to the amount of provinces you have. I don't like this one bit. I think it's a really, 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 really bad change because it's not hard to cast a ritual even in 10 provinces. The only difference is that it's harder to cast a 200 cast ritual, but that's not really that big of an advantage. And I think a ritual, which is something that's supposed to be a whole kingdom coming together and helping, should show the result of having more provinces helping, you know? So it's also overall making rituals like 6% easier to cast. I don't know. It seems odd to me. I don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's going to break the game. I don't think it's necessary. Okay, second big change. We've got draft rate back onto affluent. A 20% draft rate onto your affluent's probably going to save you 8 ticks a draft, maybe more. But you're looking at least 8 more ticks of max income. And based on what we saw last age, where people were only getting like 30 ticks of income, that's a good like 25% bonus to your income in overseas fire. So you're going to see more elites for sure. You have more elites from End of War Ceasefire draft rate, more elites from converts. Barrier. I forget what the barrier was last age. Go check it out. I guess current age. Read all my stats. Yeah, that's what I thought. So you're getting that combat losses. That's not even, huh? So that's like a guard station effect. That's not what I was thinking at first. I see. That's actually neat. I don't mind that. I think it's okay. I think barrier was needing a buff. Not sure if that's the buff it needs. I could see this getting a little bit annoying to play against, but huh. Yeah, no, that's a cute change. I think it's okay. Expedient, this is probably third big change. Maybe not as huge, but getting that train time back in the game. That's a big one. That means you're saving another 4 ticks or so of training, or 6 ticks when you train. You add that to the amount of hours you have of maximum income. So now you're looking at almost 48 hours of income, where before you're looking at like 30. You're looking at like 50% more income. Not exactly, but point being, you're going to get a lot more elites than last stage, and be prepared for that. Expropriation removed. I think that's good. I think it's good to get rid of rituals that are only meant for farming and not really meant for any sort of legitimate play. I don't like. Like, you can say using an expropriation to like come out ahead in a otherwise losing war is good or bad. I don't think that's so bad. I think tactical withdrawals are fine. If more people did them, you'd have more wars. But I see it mostly used just when you know you've got a war against someone worse than you. And it's a bit too swingy. It gets you too much too quickly, and I don't like that. So it is what it is. 10% attack time, honor gains, credit gains. So you stack the attack time and the honor gains, basically becomes like 30% honor gains. And that's just a lot, you know. You run Godspeed and you run War Heroes, and you just hit all the honor you can, and you're allowed to just withdraw at that point. Farm enough honor on your War Heroes, you're going to win wars later. But how good is it actually as just a war ritual? It's not very good. 10% attack time is not very good on its own. In fact, there's a lot of situations where 10% attack time is worse than no change in attack time with no other bonuses involved. Because if you're a little bit faster than your opponent, it usually means that your armies are in, they're out, and then they chain you right after you hit out. So you both wave, you get back first. But if you want to chain anyone, their land comes in one tick later and you can't do any damage. Havoc. We've got damage buffs back to Havoc. And we're down on the offense. And okay. Yo, Fox, turn down your mic. There we go. So Havoc was actually supposed to be 20% EPA and WPA this age, H96, but they just forgot to change it and then claimed that it was never supposed to be changed. So it was actually 30% all of H96. So, you know, getting that lowered effect in exchange for damage, it's not so bad. I think I prefer it this way over just the raw stat increase, as yeah, you just get a bit more done with damage in a lot of cases. Onslaught. Now this is going back to bad things. This is where the game starts getting scary again. When you start, because these two bonuses stack. When you have 10% more offense to hit someone with, you're already doing 10% more kills. So when you're doing 10% more kills and 15% more kills, suddenly you're getting into a scary spot. Old Onslaught was so good for so many ages, and everybody knew it. So, we'll see how it goes. Stalwart, I think that's no change. I think maybe that's a slight... Oh no, it used to be all casualties. That's actually a Stalwart nerf, and I think it used to be 20%. So that's actually a pretty significant Stalwart nerf. What do you know? I don't think Stalwart needed a nerf if Onslaught like this is in the game. I think Stalwart needed a nerf in Age 96 a little bit. That was just because you had really strong TMs. New spells, Minor Mystique. You make a little bit more gold, it's on dwarves. You know, it's cute. I don't mind things stir flavor. When you look at something like Fertile Lands or Minor Protection, it's a small thing, makes you feel good to cast. Same thing with this new cell, Salvation, 10% military casualties. It's not a very big bonus. It's pretty minor bonus, but hey, it's a free bonus. Everyone likes free bonuses. Amnesia's been put down to Havoc only, or Heretic only. I think that's a nice change. I think Mystics casting Amnesia is a little bit unfair. Even just Rogues and Chained Core casting Amnesia can be a little bit annoying for anyone that actually pumps Science, but sometimes you grow and you can't keep that WPA. We have a very interesting buff to Bloodlust. We'll already one of the best spells in the game. Not sure what I feel about that. This suffers the same problem that Onslaught had. The Bloodlust used to be you lost 20% more, and they lost 10% more. But again, you also had 10% more offense, so those two things stacked into the 20, and that's why it was balanced that way. Now with this Bloodlust, you're doing 10% more offense, 15% more kills. That stacks into like 26% more kills. Stack that with Onslaught, suddenly you've got 21% more offense and 42% more kills on that offense, and it starts getting out of control. So, build hospitals or be prepared to get wrecked, I guess. Mind Shield is nerfed slightly. Not that interesting. Here's another big change for the age. I think this is... I'm not sure how this is actually going to play out. Obviously, it means when you wave and give button, you get to have full stealth on your rogues. That's really scary. But once you've used that stealth, this Exposed Thief is going to be a lot stronger. Because that's probably going to be 4 to 6 stealth per ET. And average currently is probably more like 1 or 2% stealth. The only difference is that just sit for 12 hours, you're guaranteed to have 40 stealth and nobody can touch it. So you're going to have more abilities for rogues to break through really strong targets if they just wait long enough. The main thing that ET did, you kept them from ever having enough banked stealth for them to get through your watchtowers. That was the big thing. So now you don't necessarily have that going for you anymore. But if you're just trying to get as much damage done every hours or every tick, Exposed Thief has been buffed in that way. Fanaticism's changed. Shorter. That's cute quality of life. Invis TPA bonus. I like this change, down to 10% from 20%. Invis was already low-key, another strongest spell in the game. 20% losses, 20% TPA was... That's like half as good as a lot of entire races or personality buffs, and it just flew under the radar sometimes. And it also led to a lot of the oppressiveness we've seen from rogues, because rogues would have their TDs and invis 20%. You couldn't really defend against it. Even rogue versus rogue battles, you've got 20% TPA from invis, minus 10% TPA from bribe thief. There's nothing you can really stop it. Meteor showers changed to war only. I think that's unnecessary. Maybe make it hostile only, but I don't like that change. I think it's unnecessary. Because you're already giving waivers an advantage when it comes to sending a button over, so. No more HI on the support list. Not sure if that's good or bad. Everyone likes getting HI. It's probably too strong. Just be handing it out like candy willy-nilly. So, in that regard, it's nice. It makes War Hero, I believe, who has Hero's Inspiration, a bit more valuable. But last couple of ages, you've been able to give everyone Hero's Inspiration pretty much. And it's been a little bit boring on wages. Aggression is a support spell. I think that's cute. Not bad. Ghost Workers is a support spell. I don't think I like that. It's just a spell you can put on everyone all the time. And it's like, well, lame. I prefer the spells to actually do stuff. Did you put it on? It's going to be a big mana sink. It's worth having over not having, so everyone's going to want it. It's going to be just a pain in the butt as a support player to tell people. Mist, I really don't like Mist as a support spell. It's going to be put on every single chain after 1 or 2 hits. And it's just going to make chaining a little bit harder, and it just missed, and it's guard stations, and it's bleh. Don't like it. Salvation, I think that's a fine support spell. I'm very happy to see that there. Town Watch, very similar to Mist. You don't want that as a support spell because it's just going to be every kingdom that ever plans to grow a little bit. They're going to have whatever single halfling cleric just so they can cast Town Watch on their 40,000 peasant orcs that they max gain with. Like, well, okay. I'm glad that you made a support spell that'll affect 2 try-hard top kingdoms and Emery. Is that really what you need? Guarantee you that, Emeriti is going to have 1 halfling cleric. It's going to be their monarch, and it's going to be Binar playing it. Because that's exactly what happened the last 4 times we had a support Town Watch in the game. Stab whiz damage reduced 50%. I think that's too much. I don't even necessarily think Sabotage Wizard needs a nerf. Just think we've had a few ages recently where you have way too strong of thieves in general that are able to just throw Sabotage Willies around and succeed really easily. I think if you are reining in thief power in general, you don't necessarily need to even get into Sabotage Wizards. Assassinate Wizards meters increased. I think that's fine. It was barely above what a Night Strike was. I would have just preferred lowering Night Strike, but Arson meter points. I don't know what Arson was, nor have I ever seen a useful cast of Arson happen in the entire game. So that seems weird and convoluted to me. Greater Arson. You don't do enough of those for me to really care, so that's fine. I think it was also at 0.8, 0.08. Dragons no longer have that soldier cost and gold cost attached to them. I think food also was added. Dragon's only going to last 2 days. Makes it a bit more reasonable to tank them in. I still don't think you want to tank them in most circumstances, but 2 days is a lot easier to bite the bullet than 5 days. You need to send food with your dragons, so if you're a full undead kingdom, don't get caught by that. It's going to be really embarrassing if you can't send a dragon because you don't have any food. Also, don't accidentally send all of your food at the dragon when funding it and then starve. But otherwise, I don't think that matters very much. I think it's just a little bit cute. Nice quality of life change, and we've got new dragons. I believe these were the same. Go check the wiki. Dragon. So, actually a slight nerf to the casualties. Doesn't make a big difference. And then minus 30% credits. And it's now the same HP as a Ruby. I don't think that's great. I don't think that's all that interesting, actually. I don't think in most average wars credits are even used. All of them. I mean, this age they were, I thought, because there's a lot more TMs with peasants and a lot less core with offense. But in your average high intensity core age, you don't actually have very many soldiers. And instead, you have a Ruby Dragon, which is insanely more powerful because throwing plus 30% wages on the entire enemy kingdom is no joke. That's like hugely out of balance. I don't even know what you're talking about there. That's just crazy. It's mostly that the Emerald Dragon's really uninteresting. It looks like all these dragons got a pretty big bonus, but then the Emerald didn't, and it's just kind of funny. 30% wages, that's insane. You can't actually sustain your kingdom like that. If you have to cut wages to 100% or something, and you lose 10% military efficiency, suddenly you're losing 20% military efficiency. So, like, yeah, maybe you can get through 48 hours of that if you want to tank it, but 100% you're slaying your ruby. I actually think there's a lot of situations where I'd even tank this emerald, and I wouldn't feel too bad. Sapphire. Sapphire's very scary, as always. I don't think you're tanking that very often either, unless you're already so resigned, as is. A little bit more damage, spell duration. That's really annoying. That's going to be hitting your self spells. It's just a big drain on mana. So, don't think you want to be tanking that either. Topaz, also very hard to tank. Without that building efficiency, everything gets really scary. The income. Income's not that bad because you're used to dragons already having an income penalty attached. So, one of the big problems with tanking a dragon is really just that passive income penalty. And without that, maybe you do see more tanking of something like an emerald or a sapphire. When it comes to a topaz or a ruby, the ones that actually hit your income over time, I don't think people are tanking those. So, dragons seem neat. Gonna have to see how it plays out. But that's a huge change overall. Just gotta fix that ruby and fix that emerald more than anything. Now we've got to get into the meat and potatoes. Actual race changes. Avians get attack time, 15%, very boring. It's the same as a tactician. So you can sync your avians and your undead tax or whatever you want to pick if you like that be synced like that. I prefer a faster avian myself. I think a 15% attack speed avian is just a bad tactician. But 15 offense, that's the marker you want to hit with no stables. With 15 offense elites, an avian will have really strong offense. If they have a high elite count, avians are monsters. So avian's very strong. Fanat, clear sight, speed, and offense, everything's good. The conversions, I don't think that matters too much. What it's going to do is it's going to give them an early age boost, and avians are often struggling early age because they don't have horses to go onto their specs. So maybe that's the benefit you're getting out of avians. You're also losing that traditional birth rate bonus. So if you like to play more of an economic attrition style avian rather than just like a fast powerhouse, maybe this isn't the avian for you this age. But very standard, very strong avian. Got no problems there. Dark Elf, we've got another Emeraldy crown here. Because everyone loves a 50% rune cost Dark Elf. It's always a bit much just how easy it is to do stuff early age with the rune cost. And how easy it is to get wizards. So, very strong spell duration. 25% spell duration means your ETs and your chastities are going to last 7 ticks. That's really just too long for me. You cut down that to 20%, then you got capped at 6 tick, and that's a lot more reasonable. 20%, you're looking at getting basically 3.6 mana regen. So this turns into basically like plus half a mana regen. But the main issue is that if you do like a 5.1 tick cast chastity, it rounds up to 6. So this is where that 25% changes 5 tick chastity into a 6.25 tick chastity, which rounds up to 7. Suddenly that's like a 40% bonus instead of a 25% bonus. They got the 1-0 spec, so they're still attacking okay. They're not as strong as this age where they had that 13 elite. Last age, people weren't having very many elites. And then you've got that defensive elite this age. So your Dark Elves, if they're attacking, their offense is going down very fast. So you're either just hoping to get into that sort of turtley state where you can hopefully fall back on your mage power to sustain an economy, Problem is, you've got that counter indication, you've got that birth rate penalty, so it's a little bit harder to play that turtle sort of Dark Elf. What you really want out of a Dark Elf is to be hitting hard, hitting fast, and probably getting out of war pretty quick. If you run a screw-up style Dark Elf, what they'll actually do is they'll just hit with their elites all war, and I think that's actually more correct than not if you have a lot of Dark Elves or a lot of other attackers. If you have just a few of these trying to play hybrid, they're either going to run out of offense too fast, or get followed out with Fireball, or if they get hit, if they trade hits a lot, they lose a lot of offense and a lot of defense, and they struggle. So make sure you know what you're doing with Dark Elf here. But very strong. You've got Chastity, Mage's Fury, Spell Duration, Rune Cost. You don't even need a military yet. You can just run soldiers and peasants and probably make this work. So. And then, you know, you can vermin people so they can't send their dragon. Dwarf. Dwarves are out. Dwarves are out and about and acting very dwarf-like. Very standard dwarf. 20% building efficiency, super tanky elite that's not too strong with offense. So sometimes your dwarf has 50% faster build speed and no accelerated buildings allowed. This time they just have the half cost. Means you can double time your builds for full cost, sort of. So in a way they have half speed buildings. But what this means is in End of War Ceasefire, when you're using credits, this bonus doesn't matter. And in war, when you're hitting for credits, this bonus doesn't matter. And there's actually a bonus the amount of build credits you're getting this age. So this is actually, this construction and raise cost is got a lot less uses than you want it to be. See how that works. Obviously, if you're sitting on a war and you need to swap to war builds or whatever, it's very useful. You save millions and millions of gold, especially if you're big. It's amazing if you plan to be a big province, plan to explore, setting up a cow, all those sorts of things. This becomes an amazing bonus. But if you're just sort of warring and hitting stuff, I think it's a little bit less useful than you might think. They've got that 10% gold bonus. They've got Mist. So if you want that dwarf cleric giving everyone Mist, here you go. 50% food, nobody cares. That basically is negated by building efficiency. Minus on the TPAs, I sort of like that because dwarves, it's really hard to get through those dwarven watchtowers. But now, with the TPA thing, you're not going to be able to run those sort of like Thief Den media TPA sort of dwarf that's relying on the build efficiency. This is sort of stuck being that. I'm relying on the buildings, the build efficiency. I'm not going to hybrid it up too much. So, yeah, it's going to struggle if it wants to be like a mystic or a heretic. A lot more than usual. It's going to be that solid tanky attacker. Now, it's really big elite defense. You're only ever going to be hitting on one of these elites once. Or one of these armies home once. So catch them armies out if you can. Their offense isn't that high. It's not that low, right? Like, that's the same as an elite. But if you're mounting all your elites as a dwarf, that means you're running a lot of stables that are getting no benefit from your building efficiency. So, I don't see the dwarves being quite as strong as the heavy attackers might want. They end up falling in that sort of turtley, tanky style. But if you do throw something like a war hero or warrior on it, you're running onslaught, you can definitely get the offense you need out of the dwarf. Like, it's not that far behind other options, but it's if you're running a lot of stables and a lot of elites, you're running into other problems with how much build space you really have. Build efficiency doesn't go as far when you got to split it up in a bunch of builds. So It's going to have some weaknesses. Elf. We've got a weird elf this age. We've got an elf that's not a TM at all. We've got no science bonus, no TPA, no wizard bonus, no mana, nothing. What you've got is a shitload of runes. That's really an economic bonus more than anything. You could, if you run an elf core, you can pass those runes into it. TM, right? Military wages minus 30% is a lot. That's a cheap army. So you're gonna have extra gold. You won't struggle to pay your wages in war. You won't need a lot of aid. You're gonna be sending out a lot of runes. Honestly, you're gonna have a huge trade balance. So I'm not sure what you plan to do with it all. Ghost Workers, nice spell. Access to dungeons. It's a little bit annoying. Dungeons are the best building in the game. Just can't run very many of them. The 12D spec is insane. It's so much more defense. And you end up just running more D specs, right? Like a lot of attackers that might have 60 specs per acre. That's 60 DPA. And you can run like 8 D specs per acre for 100 DPA. That's more than 50% defense bonus. And it doesn't cost you that much. You got the elite home, you're basically unbreakable. Where you run into problems is you're not throwing down that huge offense number. So you can go one route. You can like compensate by running elf warriors and you try to maximize that offense plus defense. That's a really solid way to play, especially micros and growth kingdoms. If you're playing any sort of like turtle role where your goal is to maintain your offense longer than the rest of your core and become essentially unchainable, elf is going to be really happy at that sort of role. Sometimes when you're playing something like that, they just fireball you deep. Now you got those wages, so I like the idea of elf here. I would run like elf clerics with this. You can give that ghost workers I was complaining about to people. The tankiness of a cleric really stacks well with the defense, and cleric also gets the economy bonus with that rune. So I'm really liking like slot in a few elf clerics as your clerics if that's what you like. My first few crowns and we're on the back of some elf clerics run by some really good players. Well, that's the exact province I'm seeing in my head right now. I want to say like I want to add some sort of other bonus to this for the flavor, but I think it's strong enough as is, so I guess you don't need to. Huh. Yeah, I like that elf a lot. Very WPA, very nice. That's even with Dark Elf that has Mage's Fury. -1 self spell. Saves you a bit of mana. It's not huge. You don't have Tree of Gold unless you're Artisan. So it's not really saving you that much mana, but it helps. Lets you Paradise a bunch, I guess. -10 pop. We've all played the fairies recently. We know it's big pain, but you get the elites, and they're only 1,200 gold. That's pretty cheap. You get the elites, your fairies are very comparable on defense to other people. Maybe not as high as a 12D spec elf, but the elf doesn't have any bonuses this age, so fairy's gonna be probably your. Yeah, I guess dark elf has got the same elite, more or less. You're a little weaker than a dark elf or a fairy once you factor in the population. Once you get everything going, you've got the bigger bonuses. So, just want to get yourself established as fairy. If you can get yourself established, you're really happy. Visibility goes along. Access to Fool's Gold, Blizzard, Pitfalls. This might be the only Pitfalls, actually. Yeah, so that's the only Pitfalls in the game. So you're basically required to have a fairy. Whether or not it's going to be one of those you're the one PF caster in the kingdom and everyone pings you all day, or you want to slot in a few fairies, that's up to you. You're going to be able to run a hybrid pretty well, get those elites early, and then if you get the honor or the land size you need, you can transition into that TM a lot easier once you have a few elites. And they got the +1 D-spec this age. I think it's unnecessary, but a lot of people struggle with the fairy, so I understand where the idea comes from. So no sort of damage boosts though, right? No more stealth, no more mana for that. No damage buff. So we're lacking some TM power this age. No damage buff on the Dark Elf either. It's just relying on durations and runes. So Fairy's got a bit more power. The Dark Elf has got a bit more output. And then Halfling. Halfling with TPA. So the TPA seems like quite a bit. Math it out. You're looking at a lot of like 8 TPA rogues. That's +2 TPA there. That's pretty strong. But there's no invis on the rogues. Invis is stronger than 20% TPA. So the halfling is very similar to last age's gnome. You're losing out 5 population. Assuming you're playing a rogue, this bonus pretty much a wash with gnome. You've got that town watch. Find myself of gnome. I see. So I slightly prefer the 10-5 elite over the 8-8. A little bit more valuable. They lost that O-spec though, so they don't really want you attacking. Probably still can and not be terribly poorly off. You know, throw a few elites on your halfling TM. It's not terrible. And you know, this is actually maybe if you're looking at a halfling mystic or heretic, this 25% TPA comes into play a lot more because that invis was tied to rogue last age. So you're comparing this age and last age. I think a halfling does as good a job as at a mystic or heretic as gnome did last age. So this looks pretty strong. This looks like the only really TM powerhouse there is. Even last age they didn't have hospitals. This age you've got a lot more kill bonuses in the game, higher offense. You are gonna get hit. So last age's gnome might actually be worse than this age's halfling at everything except rogue. Whereas I still think the gnome rogue isn't getting beat anytime soon for a good province. That halfling looks very strong, very strong. Human, income, birth rate. Bunch of little spells. Humans got all these things that don't really show up on paper, right? So when you sweep an enemy kingdom, you look at their offense, you look at their defense. You don't notice things like income, you don't notice things like birth rate, that fountain of knowledge, just a little bit of extra science. That wrathful smite means you're just taking a little extra damage. That salvation means they're taking a little bit less damage. Anyone that doesn't have a few dark elf gonna run into big problems with this right here. I think anyone that can maintain good chastity and have leftover mana for fireball, they're gonna be able to deal with human in war. Now, human might just beat you in prep with that income. It's going to be able to get all their elites. It's going to be a pain in the ass to wave into humans. They got full elites with a lot of defense. They've got really high offense. They've got a +1 on the warhorse there. You're looking at the best elite so far at 16. That's above dwarf and 8. You even got the +1 O spec because of the horse. You don't really have a penalty at all. So you've got, a lot of small bonuses, and quite a few people might call this a significant bonus. It's really hard to make someone drop wages when they got 25% income. They're going to be funding dragons, paying wages. They're going to be drafting. So while the human, in my opinion, looks really boring, and that's an expensive elite too, you'll have all the elites you want, no problem. Sure. While the human to me looks boring, like, I want to see like that old fashioned quick feat for 10% thrown in here, right? That's the sort of human this is. I think it's going to be strong. I think you're going to have all the elites, and you're going to look at their offense plus their defense, and you're going to be like, oh, that's just really scary. What do I do? And you're not wrong. You compare it to like an elf. I was talking about running a tanky elf, but you can just cut one or two elites, add some D specs, and now if you compare it to an elf, income versus wages, yeah, it's sort of a wash. Then you have birth rate. Oh, that seems pretty good. You got all these bonuses, so very similar to an elf, I think, but it's got more potential to slam in a bunch of offense when it needs it. I think that versatility might put it on top. So heck, I might even look at something like a human cleric in that case. Pretty happy. Because cleric has that in or economy books. I think that stacks pretty well. But yeah, human coming around a bit on human. I see the strength of it. I just really boring. So there you go. Orcs. Orc smash. 20% gains is a lot of gains. And draft cost is a lot of saved gold. That's a huge benefit. That makes everything you train 50 gold cheaper. Raw, not modified. So elite, it's going to be 750. It's sort of like it's 700 only. Specs that get really cheap as well. It's an expensive elite. The honor nerf is pretty significant when it comes down to income. Probably a good 10% income nerf on most, or most of the time. But Bloodlust, one of the best spells in the game. And if you're just running with O specs and Bloodlust and gains, you're going to be pretty happy. So, very plain orc, sort of orc we've seen. It's got the most offense. Human is at 16 offense. The orc is at 17 plus Bloodlust is almost 19 offense. So more than a 10% offense lead on top of the human with bonus skills and gains. But are you going to be able to afford those elites? Do you really have more offense than other people when you don't have your elites and you have to fall back on the O specs? No, you don't really. I don't really mind the combat losses. It stacks with blood loss. It hurts, but it's manageable. I think if you just want to throw anyone on an orc warrior, they'll do fine. If you want to utterly obliterate enemy core, orc tactician's gonna annihilate people. If you want to be sort of flying under the radar, I think even an orc cleric can be just as happy as it needs to be. So yeah, plenty of options there. And don't discount orc because these things all suck. Because guess what? If more people ran orcs this last age, gnomes wouldn't have been such a problem. But what do you? Undead, plague, food. Thank you. Those are the sorts of things you want. Starving undeads is just a little bit silly. No plague undeads is a little bit silly. And, a plague. In a core fight, plague is really reliable in chains, and it's a lot of defense to take off of a chain. It lets you get someone really deep. Food, just a little bit of land. It's not a huge bonus. free elites, it's really hard to complain about free elites. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of this. I think it's the thing is that it gets you elites without costing you soldiers. So you don't have to train O specs to convert. In fact, you can have 0 peasants and be fireballed and chastitied all the war long, gain military because of this. I think that's a thing people overlook is how when you're in really tight wars where nobody has anything, just how strong this bonus becomes. And then conversely, when you have everything and your offense is really big and your province is pristine, you just came out of war, you've got homes, building efficiency, and everything, and you hit someone with all your offense and get 10,000 soldiers, they all just turn into elites. It also lets you get elites without growing. You can just raise people, you can mass people, you can learn, you can bounce. If you want to get some converts in, if you trade hits, not only you're converting your O specs, you're also converting your kills. The main thing is, when you get chained, you lose all your dungeons. So, it's really, make sure you rebuild those quick. You don't get to keep all of those when you get chained. But you can build them back quick and refill them. Animate deads, okay. You don't have hospitals, and a lot of people talk about how they can do a lot of damage to an undead with kill stacking, which is very prevalent this age, and I don't disagree. But you've got that animate dead to sort of get some free population out of the deal. So I don't mind that. And when you do have an O spec based offense, yeah, sure you're going to get chained deep because they can kill your defense really fast without hospitals. But I mean, the same's happening to them when you chain them with plague. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I think in general hospitals are overrated for most war builds. Hospitals are really good if you're trading hits out of war, if you're getting ambushed and stuff, but if you're getting chained and you're getting night striped, hospitals don't actually help all that much. So I think Undead is really strong. I think Undead Warrior stacking kills out of war is really nice. I think having a 14 offense spec means you get to max universities and guilds and end of war ceasefire. Means you can explore and still have a full military. It means you can pump anything you like. You can build homes and get really high draft. I like a lot of what I see in Undead. This is the sort of Undead I used to overlook, but I was actually watching some of the Atlas guys play Undeads with the old converts and stuff. I really started to see how strong they were. So, a lot of people said the Undead's actually not great. Mostly the guy that made the changes and Saps. So, you can ask them all the reasons why I'm wrong, and they're probably more right than wrong. I'm still into these. There's nothing more fun than leading a wave and every time anyone plagues, the whole server erupts. Like it just as a kingdom, there's nothing better than running undead or just morale. So there's that. Personalities. Oh, I didn't look that close at the artisan before. I know I should have. Oh dear. This artisan is really, 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 really strong. Uh Raise immunity is really good. Like I've said before, main two ways you're losing offense as a core is being night striked and being chained. When they can't GA or watchtowers, it's hard to night strike you. uh, there's just that. Build time to get your things in between waves. Very nice. Now, you don't have any actual building efficiency bonus, so it's not like you have maxed out guard stations or anything. You're still going to be able to get chained, but Tree of Gold means you have as many elites as you want every end of war ceasefire. Do you want 12? Do you want 15? Do you want 20? You can make it happen, and you can make it happen without very much build space. If you just want to run, 30 banks for 24 hours. You spam Tree of Gold as soon as Affluence activated, and swap them to homes, and you can draft to 100% and crush people. This is what TFC did. Why we were so strong, because we swapped 30 banks into 30 homes, draft for 72 hours, and come out scary strong. You can do that. You can have max elites, or you can just slut around with, huge homes and huge population size. So Artisan looks nice. It's quite a bit buff from Artisan of Last Age. I think Artisan of Last Age was one of the best personalities that nobody picked. However, as we'll see, I think a lot of attacker personalities got buffed. So, don't get too sold on Artisan yet. That is, except Cleric. Cleric didn't get buffed. Cleric is just, well, you need support casters. So pick some clerics if you want clerics, but they're not going to be as strong as the paladin was last age. Last age you had 400 paladins, and they're like, we can do everything. Now they were all wrong. Paladin did terribly last age, so did Tactician, because it turns out that gnome rogues with 500 DPA and 5 stealth are really strong, and you don't want to be fast and you don't want to be attrition-y. You want to do hit things. But in this age, with a lot of stacking kills, with potentially a lot more effective undead, your cleric bonuses aren't too bad. You have some nice racial support spells out there. Get into it. And you do have that economy bonus. So you're going to be playing a tankier cleric when you have these sorts of book bonuses. You end up with a lot more pop space, income, production, tools. You have high build efficiency. You can rely on those forts and those watchtowers and those hospitals to keep you alive longer. Those other support spells, you're aiding out runes, you're making gold. Good way to play. But it's not going to be your whole core, most likely, unless you've got something special in mind. And it's not going to be breaking TMs too much. But, no, very boring cleric. It casts spells on people. You want a couple of them. Heretic. Very classic, 50% thief loss, 15% damage. So the way to think about this is half of assuming you're doing instant ops, which is pretty easy to assume as a heretic. This is like half of a mana, and this is like half of a stealth. This is 1 mana, this is 1 stealth. So in that regard, it does match up with Mystic and Rogue for output. Do, however, not get the +1 mana or stealth worth of honor gains, so it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes as a heretic to keep up in honor. But you have the upside of being able to do it all. Extra wizards, that's almost on par with your mystics. Thief losses will, keep you in the game, but keep in mind there's no WPA or TPA benefit here. You're relying on raw numbers and thief dens and science to output higher numbers than whoever you're targeting, probably core. If you want to fireball and ET a rogue, sure, you've got extra wizard production, but you actually need to have more wizards. You have the same amount of wizards, you're not doing a lot with your heretic. So I think the big thing with heretic here is you really care about these 2 spells more than anything. Some ages you can run a heretic that's focused on night striking, has good WPA and stuff, but I think you're going to struggle a bit more. You don't have revelations, you don't have any other spells attached to the heretic, and the races aren't particularly strong either. So Halfling Heretic's going to be fine. Dark Elf Heretic's going to be awesome. Problem with the Dark Elf Heretic is now you're double dipping spell duration and spell damage. Things don't mix. But, if you pick all Dark Elf Heretics, or you just pick a group of Dark Elf Heretics, you're going to have a lot of nightmares. You're going to have amnesia. It's going to be strong. But I think the Heretic's going to struggle on anyone who just sort of casually picks it. Because, yeah, it's that's going to be difficult to manage. Get a plan there. I don't know. I don't know if it's so easy to manage. I mean, if you just pump enough science, you get there, but then you fall behind on military, you don't have the income to build your elites or whatever, so. Heretic looks a bit weak. I might even lower the wizard production to make the emphasis more on working hard to make it all work. Maybe they need a slight buff somewhere else. I don't know. But I think the goal of this age is, in a way, to make your TMs actually difficult to play. But if end of the day, after all the core beat the crap out of each other, someone's going to have TM standing, and that's going to win you the war. Which is not going to be as easy anymore. Mystic. Very normal Mystic. This is actually really big. When you get into that 6, 7, 8 WPA range, it's pretty normal to lose an entire raw WPA over the course of a 3-day war. I was keeping track of this once, and I found usually a 72-hour war at 7 WPA, you would lose an entire raw. So this is actually really good for attrition in those high WPA scenarios where your explosions end up taking you quite a bit of wizards. And all you're getting is meteor showers. No other spells, no other bonuses, no WPA. 1 mana and meteors is all you get. So, yeah, find a way to use it. I mean, you're still going to want them. Meteor showers is still insane. Having guilds and mana is still really good, but you're not getting all those extra goodies that you see thrown in other ages. Rogue. 100% thief dens. You see a lot of 50 and 75% ages. You've got the full 100%. So your thief dens aren't going to be a problem. That's good to know. Still hard to max them, but you sometimes when you have 50 or 75% TD bonus only, you actually end up needing like 25, 30 TDs. It's very hard. So +1 stealth, that's nice. No more degenerate 5 stealth rogues. 30% thief cost, it saves you like 300 gold per acre in End of War Ceasefire. It's not huge. It's actually less interesting in End of War Ceasefire. I actually think the thief cost modifier is most important in long wars. In an age like this where TMs aren't looking to be super powerful at the onset, TMs are going to be looking to actually just focus more on their defense early. And maybe at the start of war, they're not even able to break core super reliably. But the attrition game hurts core a lot more. They're starting to grow. They lose their thieves. They lose their wizards. And they start hitting into each other. Maybe you've only got 5 or 6 TPA and you can't even break through an enemy mystic. That's where later war, that the thief cost comes in. You can actually pump up to 7 or 8 and you start breaking through the TMs. I've lost a war like that, so I know it's possible. Yeah, these are very bare-bone TMs. They're just giving you the spells and they're giving you a mana or a stealth and saying, well, good luck. So, yeah, good luck. I hope someone can make these things work. Sage, very boring Sage. Got Rev and Science Efficiency. With no other difference, Revelations will give you about 30% more books over time. 30% more books is maybe worth 15% science effectiveness, plus 10% science effectiveness. It adds up. Big bonus, but it's not quite as reliable as you want. You need to keep casting it. You need to have those universities in. can't be getting learned. If you're in war, you're going to have to be arguing with people if you can keep casting it. So, if you want a sage to work, you do need to do learns for the most part. You need to get even more ahead. This isn't a super strong sage, but it's a sage. Your main worry is if I grow too much early age, I won't be able to learn people. But I'll be able to get my province where I want it in terms of wizards and military. Problem if you stay small and you learn a lot, once you grow, suddenly, well, now my wizards breakers aren't very good. If they've got any heretics, I'm going to get amnesia to death. But with limited amnesia, relatively weak heretics, I think if you sort of fly under the radar as a sage, you might still do alright this age. Shepherd. Now this is where we get something new. We don't get new things very often in Utopia. So minus 15% combat losses. That is acres. That's plunders and trads. That is not troop losses. I made that mistake first time we read the changes as well, thinking, why does it get a half cleric bonus? No, this is like a mega guard station buff. All you need is a dwarf shepherd with missed guard stations and combat losses going on. Yeah, that's just a pain to chain. I assume that's going to affect raises and massacres. It might not actually. But it's going to be a pain to chain, but you're not really getting anything out of it. Every acre gets 8 war horses, so 10 of them is 10 acres is 1 stable. So it's basically 10% stables for free always. So 10% land, assuming you're attacking all age long. That's like 10% guard stations, and it stacks with guard stations. So if you're also building guard stations, it's worth a lot more than 10% more guard stations. So this is a personality that's worth 20% land. Maybe 25% with the food, and then you can't get meteor showered, which means you can run high defense as a core, and they can't just meteor showers you over and over again while ignoring you, and then later you don't have any defense left. It also means that you can leave elites home. If you're playing something with a bit of a tanky elite, you can leave some elites home as defense, and you're not getting punished for it. So I have no doubt there will be some very effective shepherds this age. I don't know if I'm the one that can tell you how to do it, though. Very interesting, very interesting. I don't suppose avians can be shepherds and get horses. Where you look at something like an orc, you have bonus gains, save some land on the horses. And in fact, dwarf. So I was complaining earlier about dwarf and stables. Oh yeah, I could see a dwarf shepherd being a huge pain in the balls. Maybe if you ran some heretics for nightmare, you can get away keeping elites home. Or if you otherwise have night strike or kills some other way. Very interesting. End of the day, it has a problem of it doesn't have any offense. It's not fast, so it doesn't do anything better than anyone. But when you start converting their bonuses into, like, effective land, you're like, well, that's a lot of land. Maybe the answer is that I just run more O-specs. And like, if you just run a suicide build, you're not going to lose horses when they chain you. You're not going to get chained that hard, so maybe you just run like 5 D-specs per acre and a shitload of O-specs and elites, and you just pound it into people. Maybe you do what I said before, and you turtle up. Very interesting. I don't know if it's actually good. I think someone's going to be really good with it. I just don't know who yet. And it gets the bonus to economy, so, Tactician. 30% credits gained in combat. I don't think that's particularly useful. I've explained this many times, and I'll explain it again. In a high offense age, can't use all the credits. You have too many of them, you're not going to have peasants. But, I take that back. A lot of TMs are pretty weak. So maybe you're going to see more peasants on core. Maybe you'll be able to just draft yourself unless you're chained. No. Credits are okay, I guess. I've ended wars with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of credits. I've ended wars with almost as many credits as troops at the end. So anytime I see a credit buff, I just go, ooh, whoopee, something I can't use. +1 general. In a proper slugfest, +1 general is insane. Anytime you're high offense core versus high offense core, it's pretty hard to beat 1 general. You're looking at 25% more gains, more honor, more chaining, everything. It gives you the option of ambushing a lot more. Things like that. Accurate espionage, that's always nice. Quick feet, that's just 15% attack speed. So, speed plus generals. If you have a way of killing enemy defense or you're against someone with low defense, you're just going to shred them. I was saying to lots of people that Orc Tactician is going to murder people. Got 20% gains on 5 generals with speed. I don't know how you deal with that, really. But it doesn't have any extra offense. If everyone ends up running a Tactician and you run into a wall of 8 Halflings with a lot of D-specs, suddenly what are you going to do, right? They also don't have any clear sight or anything like that this age. I think Tactician's your pick to do good against other core. Tactician's your anti-core, for sure. And it's going to do a really hell, you can even war spoil your last hit out of 5 just for a little bit of birthright to get those credits going. Maybe if you're like a human tactician, combo like good birthright, credits, war spoils on some hits, and be really scary. +1 general doesn't matter if you're hitting TMs, because you don't use all your generals. +1 general doesn't matter if you're hitting tanky humans and elves and all sorts of hybrids. Really only matters when you're fighting like heavy core against heavy core. So keep that in mind. War hero. This is bordering on broken. I want to see what age it was where Screw Ups was beating everyone. Age it was where see, these aren't giving me ration purse. Top 3. Trying to remember when War Hero had minus honor loss in combat. There we go. One of these ages, so it was 50% honor loss, extra converts, and extra gains, but it had no honor bonus. It was in one of these ages where Screw Ups was just murdering everyone with their war heroes. They just ran really high offense war heroes. They ran really strong rituals. And they often, once they had honor, they were running really high WPA, really high TPA as well. And they were just slamming into people. And usually they're winning. Sometimes they didn't even win, but they still came out ahead on honor. And they ended up with Duke War heroes and all sorts of nonsense. And really oppressive to play against, and it's guaranteed them an honor crown because no one else really picked all of the war heroes like that. So now you have that sort of honor retention and a bonus to honor, which they didn't even have before when they were still crushing everyone. So now suddenly you're looking at a whole bunch of count plus attackers that have an extra 6% offense and 9% or 3% pop on top of everything else. EPA and WPA. And, yeah, you can massacre someone that's got a lot of TPA and WPA. Guess what a massacre doesn't do? It doesn't take any honor. And then 5% military efficiency in war, that's offense, that's defense, that's something, right? That's half of a bloodlust, that's an extra greater protection. That's not a joke at all. Hero's Inspiration's a fantastic spell. Everyone, doesn't matter what your offense is if you can't pay wages. So, need Hero's Inspiration. So, I feel like you can throw this onto anything, right? Anything except Orc. You can throw this onto absolutely any core. This is going to be a fantastic avian. You use that speed to just blitz through people. You can throw it on your undead. The exact same idea. Throw it on humans. You can throw it on your dwarves, your elves. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Pretty strong. When you factor in 5% OME with another 5% offense from honor and stuff, well, suddenly that's almost as good as warrior. That's got 10%, 15% offense here. The warrior, very plain and simple, 15% offense and 15% kills. So there's that thing again where offense stacks with kills. So when you have both of them, it gets really scary. Suddenly you're doing 32% more kills. Suddenly you've got suddenly you've got an onslaught. You're doing 170% kills. Suddenly you're an orc warrior onslaught. You're doing 210% kills. Suddenly you've got pitfalls on them. It's 265% kills. So, suddenly you hit someone and they lose 12% of their units. And you've got 4 generals. And now they've lost half their units left. And that didn't take very long, So that's the sort of stuff you have to deal with. I've done it before, so I know it works. Now, you need to go Orc Warrior? No, you can do any sort of warrior. You can do any sort of onslaught. It's just that all of those options are available, and you only really need one of them to start noticing it. Once you have 2 of them, it's like, oof, something scary's going on. And so maybe this is where your sort of clerics start getting a bit more, or someone that can get enough BE hospitals to be a bit more reasonable on minus lot. It'd be really scary to be. All 3 of those are terrifying in their own way. War Hero's going to be able to do everything. Warrior's just going to kill stuff. Tactician's going to just kill core. What do you do, right? Overall, yeah, very core-centric age. Very toned-down TMs. Not like the TMs can't get defense, right? 10% pop with D-specs is pretty high DPA. Want to go with no bonuses whatsoever other than defense, just run an elf, run a lot of D-specs and pump. Do pretty well. Barry, you're going to struggle. You get those elites in, suddenly it's a lot of defense. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun age. I can think of a dozen different setups I would love to pick. I like Avian War Hero a lot. I like Undead Warrior a lot. I like Orc Tactician a lot. I like weird human picks. I think like a Tactician would be okay. I like elf clerics a lot for being tanky. TMs though is going to be a struggle. I think I like dark elf mystics playing sort of hybrids, but you're going to want quite a few of them. You got like 4 to 8 hybrid dark elf mystics, and just run that as almost all of your TM. Feels pretty good to me. I don't know where Heretic's gonna make it happen though. I think it needs the WPA buff to really get through people. So Dark Elf or Fairy gonna be tough. I think Halfling's looking a bit more reasonable as a Mystic, Heretic, or Rogue. Yeah. And run a Fairy Rogue. Got a buff with invisibility and WPA. Gonna be harder to ET. If you play Fairy anything, your number one concern is just having the defense. But anyways, those are the changes. Stop my recording.